Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Welcome back to the Mystery Reviews, episode 22. I updated the look of the thumbnail. That way it's not as generic as it once was. And hello, Rough Girl. And yes, you can. You know what? You've actually earned it because you supported the channel. So let me just pull up the YouTube. But don't take the wrench lightly. But yes, don't take the wrench lightly. It's a good, big responsibility. And it's good to see you. So let me just get this up, and this is okay, muted, so there won't be any problems with the playback. But yes, how you doing, Metalon? Good to see you. And let me just finish this little thing here. Come on, live chat. Or can I actually do it from... No, I cannot. StreamYard, you really should do that. Or work on that, allowing people to make mods in a StreamYard. Add moderator. You're now a mod, Rough. I am 100% out of abuse authority upon receiving it. Good to see you, Epi. So, yeah. This one, Epi actually guessed. Dolph Lundgren will always be my number one, but Thomas is a very close second. Also, love the car in this one. Yes. So, if you all haven't seen, I am indeed doing The Punisher from 2004. To include don't forget to include dirty laundry with your review. Well, this is actually not dirty. This is actually designed that way because it was meant to be the way that Thomas found it in a later scene of this movie. So, unless you're talking about something else, which I have no idea. But anyway, yes, we are going to be discussing the Thomas Jane Punisher movie with John Travolta, John Panay, god damn, that guy is missed, Rebecca Romaine, Roy Schreider, Samantha Mathis, Will Patton, Kevin Nash, and a slew of others. This movie was done in 2004. However, it does take place in 2003. It was produced by Avia Rod and Galen Hurd. At least one of those two were actually pretty good producers. Lionsgate is the studio that put this out there. Dirty Laundry is a short movie on YouTube. It's like a little sequel to this movie starring Thomas Jane. Oh, interesting. I'll have to check it out. Adi Shankar made it, I think. I will look for it after I'm done the review. All-star cast and was perfectly bloody. Yeah, especially in the extended editions. I have not been able to get my hands on the extended edition of this movie, but I do know of two scenes that are incredibly important to the story of this movie. So the movie itself starts out with a seemingly random beginning after a very definitive title sequence. It shows you that this is indeed the Punisher movie. But then it starts out with a random sting operation from the FBI. You don't know who the Punisher is. You don't know who the characters are. So that can be slightly confusing. Now, there is a deleted scene that does take place before the opening sequence of this scene. And thank you, FMA, for sending that video. I will check it out when I'm done. So it starts out with the character Mickey and with Bobby Saint or Robert Saint. And they're doing an international arms deal. And Otto Krieg is played by Thomas Jane, who also plays Frank Castle. But he's basically an undercover spec ops for the FBI. Now, it ends with the death, or this entire sting ends out everybody dead, including Otto Krieg. You actually see him shoot out or get shot. Now, a wonderful thing about this scene, or about this specific scene, is that Otto Krieg is a blonde. So is Thomas Jane. But Thomas Jane is using a blonde wig for this movie, or for this particular scene, when his character has black hair, as we all know. Funny thing is, I believe Dolph Lundgren also had, or is a natural blonde. When he played the Punisher, they had to dye his hair. So the movie's, or I already said that. Now, after they have everybody brought out to their command center, including the dead bodies, you see him sit up. Now, there are a lot of technical goofs in this movie, and this movie does take points off because, objectively, because of the technical goofs. You can't show your bias and say this movie is perfect when there are glaring technical goofs in this entire movie. But the movie is still enjoyable, and I will do the points later. Now, he gets back, he sits up, he's like, I hate this job. And he then, it's a nice scene between everybody or in the FBI, and they're like, who's the kid? And they're like, we don't know. So he's like, well, send him to the, or ID him and send him to the morgue. And somebody get me some pants, which they're like, can we get some pants over here? Because he's still, or he's in his underwear because, well, I don't know. But anyway, he then tries sneaking out, you know, hat down, looks up. Oh, shit. Everybody is basically having a small little party with his for his retirement. Sorry, I dropped a coin. And his friend was basically, let me see who his friend was played by. I can't remember his friend's name, you know, which, sorry about that. But anyway, there we go. Jimmy Weeks, played by A. Russell Andrews. He is Frank's friend, his mentor, his confidant, and yada yada. And he's like, what would I do without you? Get a girlfriend. He basically tells him, he's like, get a girlfriend. And they have a nice little retirement, and he hands him a, or Frank is putting on a watch, and Jimmy is supposed to have a watch that is just like his. And they then ID the guy, Robert Saint, and they're like, it's Howard Saint's son. So you have an idea that this is going to set up who Robert or Howard Saint is, because he has a point in the movie. Could they make this movie today with very little edit? Yeah, actually they could. I'm willing to bet they could, because there's very little wrong with this movie, to be 100% honest. I mean, unless they call killing a bad guy who happens to be gay evil. I mean, that's the only thing that would probably piss off the SJWs. But you know what? Halloween Kills did the same thing. Killed a gay couple. They weren't evil, but yeah. Anyway, so he's retiring from the FBI, and we then get the introduction to the Saint family and the wide shot of the Saints' household, their estate and whatnot. It basically tells you this is a family that's not exactly mafia, but can be just as dirty and just as connected as the mafia. And we then see the twin of Robert Saint, who's played, or Robert and Bobby were played by, what's his name? James Carpinello. And we also get introduced to Will Patton's character, Quentin Glass, who stands by as John tells them, and you see Howard start to go like this, but his wife just collapses at the news of their son's death, and you see John walk away, and he's like, bail him out, bring him to the club. So then you see Mickey just traipsing down the stairs to the police station, and they take him out, or Howard's men pick him up. So he's then beaten and questioned by Will Patton. I gotta say that Will Patton plays a great character in this movie. Quentin Glass is like, Mickey, you should apologize for the death of Howard Saint's youngest son. And he's like, Bobby takes Bob from him. He wanted me to come. He put up half the cash. He came of his own free will. And so they kick him again. And he's like, if you're going to kill me, can you not hit my face? Or can you leave my face for my mama? And so he grabs, he's like, we just made you bail. And if we wanted to kill you, we would have left you inside with people who I can only describe as deeply pornographic, who deals in these or in very brutal ways and whatnot. Basically, it's like, this dude is educated, but there's something seriously wrong up here when it comes to Quentin Glass. So then he's like, I'll tell you anything you want to know. Well, then this will be quick. Who brokered the deal? His name is Otto Krieg, and if it's any comfort to Mr. Saint, he's dead too. And yeah. And so then we get Howard and John walking in. John Travolta plays Howard Saint, which is pretty funny. As I said, Howard and John, but John Saint is the other twin. And he's like, well, it's no comfort. It's no comfort at all. What would comfort me is to watch the slow death of the man who is responsible for my son's death. And Mickey's still pleading. He's like, look, I didn't know it was going to happen like this, please. And he's like, well, ignorance is no excuse. And then one of the guys hands Howard a gun. And he's like, the man who betrayed my son must die. And then he shoots the guy who handed him the gun. And it's like, oh shit, So then we see, he's like, I told you never to let him out of your sight. And the guy's pleading, and he gets shot again. And then he tells him, he's like, Bobby wanted to go alone. He thought he could impress you or something. Thank you for that information. Then he just blasts him again, then tosses the gun. Now, this is one of those technical goofs that I was telling you about. When you see the gun drop on the guy, he jerks and reacts to it. It's like, you could chalk that up as a body just getting rid of the last bits of nerve energy in their body. But that dude reacted to a point where I don't think they could sell that. So that is a technical goof. And he then sees my son didn't need to impress me and just walks away. We then get to introduced to Samantha Mathis's character, who is his wife, or who plays Maria Saint, or not Saint, but Maria Castle. And I got a freaking fly in here that's bothering the hell out of me. Anyway, yep. So then when was that part? Okay. So then we get introduced to them, and they're moving out of their house because it's kind of a dangerous thing, and they're moving out, and she has a nice little moment with her husband, and he's like, it's over. Yeah, tell that to your son. Well, where is he? You know where. And you get he walks out by a doghouse where his son, played by Marcus Johns, is just staying in there. And he's like, best thing about Buck, he could catch a ball no matter how hard you threw it. And his son asks him, he's like, why are we moving again? I promise you this will be the last time. You said that the last time. And then he goes over all the times that they moved when he asked him about it. And he's like, it's for our safety. London is safer. We won't have as many problems. And we'll be together. When you're older, I'll tell you why we had to move so much. He can't explain to his son, who's only around like 7 or 10. I mean, that's another thing they actually screw up. They have the kid marked as a 10-year-old, but in the movies or in the gravestone, he's 7. So it's like, yikes, really? You guys need to get your stuff straight. So the deleted scene that references the Saints. So let me just backtrack a little bit. The scene where they're like, Johnny wanted to go alone. He thought he could impress you. That scene was actually shown, but they really couldn't put it in the beginning because it just wouldn't have fit. Where the beginning or the new beginning would have been the Saints and Sinners Club, where Howard Saint owns the club, and you see Livia Saint calling Mickey a little prick even before her son is killed. She just treats him like shit and whatnot. And you then see how they're living a high life and whatnot. And she's like, where are the twins? And then you see John talking to his brother, and his brother is coming up with a deal to meet with Mickey. And he's like, go with him. And Bobby's like, no, you stay. I can do this on my own. And whatnot. So you then see, you then get the idea that that they are twins, the Saints sons. And they do a bad job with the digital, because you could tell that one's not in the same scene one's not in the same scene as the other. But yeah, they have that little scene to establish who Bobby is, who the Saints are, and then they show the beginning of the theatrical, and, well, we all know what happens to Bobby Saint. Now, I do also like how in this, or in the scenes before Frank Castle loses his family, you see that he is indeed a loving father, a loving husband. He smiles a lot. This movie does do a great job. He only smiles once during his time after his family is killed. And it's more like just a small little grin. But we'll get to that. And it's just, they show a real good psychological game with this movie. Now, Howard Saint's detachment is interesting to watch when it comes to him losing his son, talking about his son Bobby. And the FBI agent, Jimmy, is there. He's like, and he gets questioned by Howard. He's like, who is Otto Krieg? Who are his friends? Who are the people he works with? He's like, we can't talk about the investigation with you, Mr. Saint. Now, I understand your grief, but leave this to the professionals. Right. I'll do that. And then he's meeting up with Quentin, and he's like, everybody's in on this. With the money you're putting out, Mr. Saint will know everything there is to know about Otto Krieg within 48 hours. And we then get a nice establishing shot of Puerto Rico and Anguilla Bay, or I think it's called. So they're down in Puerto Rico. Frank Castle and his wife and his son, they're visiting Frank's father and mother at a family gathering or a family reunion for both sides of the Castle's family, or Frank's family, his wife's side as well as his side. So you see that they're having fun, and then you see that there's we get a small introduction to the character of Candelaria, and they call him a witch doctor, and he's all voodoo and whatnot. He doesn't look like it too much, but it's a small little insert. And then we get to the reunion itself, where Roy Scheider, who played in Jaws, is now much older, and he's given a nice little speech about how much he loves everybody there and how he's proud that everybody was there. Kind of a nice little, slightly inebriated speech. And we see the happiness of the saint, or of the cat, or Frank's family. And it really is nice, but it's also tragic in a way, because we all know what's coming if you know who the Punisher is. Now, we then get cut to the funeral of Bobby Saint, where Howard is walking his wife to the car. They get into the car, and then Quentin Glass comes in, showing him the FBI file on Frank Castle. He's like, his name's Frank Castle. He just got the London desk for the Bureau, and nothing about him was real, not even his death. And he's like, well, maybe it is. Maybe it was real. Maybe he died, came back to life so he could die again. And he's like, you have your chance. His plane leaves in a week, and he's down in a family reunion with he's down in Puerto Rico for a family reunion. And that you actually see Mrs. Saint perk up a little bit. As she's also looking at the file. So then Howard basically gives him the go-ahead to go after Castle. But as he's about to leave, you hear, wait, and you then get just how evil the Saint family is, because Livia Saint pulls up her grief cover, and she's like, his family, his whole family. So then Howard gives him the go-ahead, and it's like, holy shit, this woman is evil. And Livia Saint is played by, Laura Herring. And she really does a wonderful job showing just how rich and spoiled she is. It truly is a testament of how well her acting is, because she's actually a nice actress from what I heard early on and whatnot. I don't know how she acts nowadays, though. So we got 6 people watching. Please feel free to smack that like button on the way in or on the way out, depending on which. Share out the stream. Loves it when women have that killer blood. Yeah, I know, right? So, yes. Also, feel free to say hi. I believe Jade Shadow is lurking, as she usually does. So, thank you, Jade Shadow, if you're lurking. And then we get a cut of a boat just going through the water. The point of view is on or is in the boat itself. So that now you know that the hunt is on. That the people are on their way to kill Castle and his family. And then we get a nice little shots of the entire get together, and they do a good job mixing it between the boat getting ever closer, the people on the island, and going between the different family things. Maria and Will are going out by the house onto the beach in another area, which takes them away from the family. How you doing, Futch Norris? I know how you want to pronounce, but I'll say Futch Norris or Futch Norris. But yes, good to see you. And this is your first time catching a live stream? Well, thank you for coming, dude. But yes, there's Rough Girl's comment. And Frank and his father have gone into the house so his father can show him the different guns and his Colts and whatnot. and how he customized the triggers, bored the barrels, and added some compensators to make the 1911 Colts more powerful, so to speak, or bored the chambers. That's what he said. So then you see Maria and Will. He's like, check this out. And she's like, yeah, look at that. It's a Stingray. Yeah. And then you hear the gunshot. Now, that scene there is another technical goof. It is not a Stingray. It is actually a horseshoe crab. Now, they actually talked about in the DVD commentary of possibly going back and fixing that, but they never did. So it's just, I'm like, you really should have, you know. Then you hear the gunshot and you see Castle look out and his face drop, and then you see Roy Schreider turn around and look out, and he's like, and you see Frank's mother struggling, and he's like, Mom? And then she drops, and then that's when all hell breaks loose with gunfire and everybody running. And they show just how truly evil these people are. You hear, or you see one of them standing by a house, or standing by the house, and he hears the family whimpering underneath. So he goes down, just blasts them. You see a guy blast another dude off a boat. One guy is trying to get away. And while all this is happening, Frank and his son, or Frank Castle and his father, are gearing up and loading up with shotguns. Now, another person is shooting. This entire sequence, from the shootout, the Gangland assassination, which was one of the hints, to the death of Maria and Bobby, all have technical goofs. A salad dish that somehow is not destroyed, or gets destroyed, but then suddenly just like magic reconstitutes because of bad cutting and bad shot development. These are, like I said, the technical goofs pile up. Now, I can cut it a little bit of slack when it comes to the year of the film, because it's 2003, it's not 2021, so they had better practical effects nowadays. But still, or when you're seeing a guy who gets caught in an explosion, good vibes, yeah, and flies back, and you then see his hat fall off and the fire mask that he has on, it does just, these scenes add up, these mistakes add up. And the famous Punisher sculpture, I should cover that. It was, in this, it is a gift from his son. This shirt is actually, it was a gift to Frank from his son. And at first it was it didn't have the yellow on it. This shirt is basically meant to mirror how he found it after everything was said and done. Good morning, Price is Right. We are discussing The Punisher 2004 with Thomas Jane. And so the Frank Castle Sr. and Frank Castle are fighting back, and they then get to the small little area where the whole family was and where his mother was, and you see Frank react. He's like, whoa, Jesus. And you see that one guy is hiding behind tipped over. Hail Orange, just swinging by before another long day in the fields to give a like and say hello to you and your great chat. Thank you, DJ Odyssey. You are always welcome here, sir. And thank you for swinging by and dropping a like. Yes, folks, please feel free to smack that like button. It really does help the channel out more than you know. And also share it out. It does help the channel get noticed and whatnot. All help is appreciated and noted. I really do love all the support you all have given me. And DJ, honestly, he does some good. He does some great streams himself when he can and stuff. He does some nice little talks and whatnot. He's a good channel. He's one of the good ones. Oh, Punisher, good film. Kevin Nash fight scene. I can never stop laughing. We will get to that, Price. We will definitely get to that because there are some great parts in it. So Maria then takes her son and tries to make a run for it while everybody else is getting slaughtered. And unfortunately, they are seen by one of the bad guys. And so the bad guys are chasing after him. And then you see Roy Schreider get blasted in the back with a shotgun. And it's like, at that close range, if that was a shotgun, his chest would have blown out. Yeah, there are some, or it could have been a birdshot shotgun for all we know, but still, that close range, that shotgun would have done a lot more damage, and he would have died instantly, especially if it was in the back, close to the heart. But you know what? That could have just done, or there are goofs. So I see some conversation in the chat. Yeah, as soon as I'm done with all this dang farm work, I'll be back to do those long live streams. Till then, there's only the rants in a tractor. I hear you, dude. Good luck with all the harvesting and prep for winter. So yeah. Then there's nice little chase scene, which also has some movie mistakes on it. You can see that some of the guys that are, when you hit some really big jumps and the tip over of Maria's car after Frank is done fighting the guys, even that fight sequence has a, most of these little goofs, you got to have an eagle eye for. John Travolta's character, I thought he did a great job and he was ruthless. Yes, he was, but he was also an insecure person as well, which I'll get to. The blonde guy that Frank, or that kills his father and whatnot, and then just gets knocked out by Frank, you actually see when he has the knife being held up to his face and then dragged out, you actually see, if you play it in slow motion, a piece of tape covering the prosthetic that they put to make it look like he gets cut. These are all nice little technical goofs, but they're done fast so that you can, or sometimes they're not clearly seen. But when it comes to things like the tipping over of Maria's car or truck when she is trying to get her son out of there, you see that there's dummies in the truck, and you also see that the thing to blast over the truck or to cause the truck to tilt and crash, you can see that is on the bottom and whatnot because they use air blasters. They put air blasters on vehicles to actually cause the vehicles to go up and whatnot. And you see all of these mistakes in these things attached and whatnot. So it's like, I've never seen that thing underneath the truck before. What the hell is it, you know? So then they get out of the car because they survived the crash and they're trying to get away, and they get up, or they knock on the door to the pier, but the people there are not there. And so they try to get to Grandpa's boat, and they end up getting run down on the pier. The best scene of the whole film for me was the popsicle torture. Dude, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. Because it does take a certain psycho to just blowtorch me. But I'll get to that. Oh, my God, folks. That he's not wrong. And, yeah, we'll go there. But anyway, you also see that Frank Castle is trying to get to them in time, but he doesn't. And when he does get to the pier, he's running down. He sees that his family is dead. And just before he gets to his family, he literally just jerks and stops and turns around for a moment. It's almost as if he just got gut punched. The shock literally is hitting him. And he does a wonderful job expressing that. It's like, oh my God. I cannot believe what is going on. His body literally forces him to just go through that because it built up, you know? So we then get to, hold on one moment. Gotta do a little bit of erasure here. There. We then get to the final bit of the killing of the Castle family, where the truck turns around on the pier and is starting to head back. And you also see that Frank, while holding his wife and son, his thumbnail is purple because he had jammed his finger in one scene previous. Although that wasn't what happens in the movie, but still, it was just a really bad thing that they couldn't avoid, you know? So, I'm getting a lot of ladybugs in here again. Well, at least they're not, or no, it's just the 3 so far. Thank God. Because, folks, my gosh, I had a lot of ladybugs before. But anyway, you see that Quentin Glass and John are in the truck, as well as the 2 shooters in the back. And Frank is using a shotgun that he took from the area when he left. It was the shotgun that the guy actually killed his father with. And he fires a couple shots, but he's also getting shot. He gets shot in the leg and shot in the stomach. But he also caused enough damage for them because he hits the windshield, and that causes them to crash the truck a little bit on the pier. So then they all get out and stand in front of him as he grabs the shotgun again, cocks it one more time, points it right at him, and you hear the click. And so now you know that he's completely fucked. So they're heading toward him. John starts beating on him and picking him up, hits him, and then kicks him down into the little kayak areas. Then they drag him down to the fueling part of the pier where Candelaria is seen in the scene before. And they just put him on his knees and whatnot. And he's like, my mother and father send their regards. This time they're not blanks. And Castle says Maria one last time before they shoot him, and you see a side shot of them shooting him, and he starts shaking really bad and then just goes forward. This dude just took a shot to the chest, you know? And then he dips over. So they start loading the place up with gasoline, splashing it all over, and light it up, and Castle gets up just in time and is then just blown out into the water as he gets his hands up. Somehow the guy survives, you know? I mean, Castle's will to live is extremely potent, shall we say. So he's then found by Candelaria, and Candelaria tells him, I'll take care of you. For me, the level of carnage in that shootout was worse than Al Capone's Valentine's Day Massacre. Yeah, I mean, this movie was originally PG-13, but then they also put a rated R version, and then they did an extended version of the R. I believe that is true. Let me check this thing for a second. What was it rated? No, it was fully rated R. My mistake. So, yeah. And we then see how the Saints celebrate. The Saints go to Saints and Sinners, and Bobby, or Mickey, is trying to, or is basically being used as the head of Saints and Sinners car people, sending them out, the valets. And he's like, good evening, Mr. Saint. You're looking lovely tonight, Mrs. Saint. And she's like, you little prick. And then John Saint smacks the paper against him, and he looks at the paper. Ex-FBI agent's family assassinated Gangland style. And he's like, holy shit. So they're all celebrating to Bobby, to a score settled, the mother says. You know that this woman is indeed just fucking evil. And we then get the nice shot of time passing, but the Saints also basically go back to their house, and Howard gives her some Harry Winston diamond earrings, and they celebrate the vengeance of their son by having sex. And then we show that a few months have gone by because Frank returns to the house. He's ragged. He's using a stick that's fashioned as a kind of like a crutch. And going into his family, you see that his hair has grown, a beard has grown on his face, and you see the scar of him getting shot in the chest there. He's going over his father's effects. There's the all of the tape is there, the crime scene tape, and he sees the picture of his parent or of his family, and then he punches through the glass to the pistols, the Colt 911s or 1911s, and he then rounds up all the guns. And as he's going back out to the beach, he sees this shirt, and he tosses the crutch to Candelaria, and he's like, "Thank you." And Candelaria gives him a nod, and he's like, "Vaya con Dios, Castle. Go with God." And Castle tells him God's going to sit this one out. So now you know that Castle is on a mission. He rounded up all of his father's guns and is on a mission. So he returns to Tampa. You see he's clean shaven. He gets into a nice loft housing area where it's kind of like warehousing, but they converted it to apartments, which is pretty cool. And he gets there after pulling out from one of his storage areas a shit ton of military grade weapons, grenades, frickin' claymores, board shotguns or sawed-off shotguns, and all sorts of frickin'. He's on a mission, folks. And you see that he's planning everything. He's setting up that apartment just in case somebody comes along. He puts a grenade underneath the sink in the bathroom and has a switch to close the door. He has a revolver set up next to a kitchen table that can slide out. All he needed was a 50 cal. I know, right? And when he hits the table, when he goes like this to hit the table, the revolver will come out. He has all sorts of things set up in this frickin' place. And then you see him also heavily drinking. He just starts slogging frickin' bourbon and whiskey. So we then get an introduction to the other tenants living in the apartment, Ben Foster, John Panay, and Rebecca Romaine. Dave is Ben Foster's character. I called him Metal Face when I first made these talking points. Bumpo is the cook. Now, these characters are actually in the comics. A lot of the parts that go on in this movie are actually very faithful to many comic adaptations, like The Russian and the fight with the Russian, Bumpo, Dave, and Joan. There's a lot of it that they pulled from the comics, and that is something that I actually do love about this movie. And you see Joan, played by Rebecca Romaine, she's out in the area just kind of doing a little bit of farming, or gardening rather, sorry. And Castle pulls in with a Charger by the looks of it. And I'm not good with cars, so folks, if you feel like correcting me, go right ahead. And you can tell that car is just like really, it needs engine maintenance. which he completely does. And then you get introduced to Dave, who's saying, "You are insignificant. You are a coward. You are a great disappointment to your mother and I." And then you see him playing an N64 game. It's a shoot 'em out game. You're excused. How you doing, Memes? Good to see you. Memes of Destruction, folks. Rebecca should be in every movie. This is actually her second. This was actually her second Marvel role because she plays Mystique. It's funny how John Travolta's gang is all decked in black mafia suits, but then you have Kevin Nash in a Waldo red stripe kid shirt. I don't know why I can't stop laughing watching that fight, because he's not affiliated with the Saints. He was just hired by the Saints. The Russian is literally strictly from the comic. The red striped shirt is from the comics. Price but yeah. So yeah, Dave has his face just full of freaking metal piercings. He's got 3 piercings on his lips, a nose piercing, a freaking eyebrow piercing, and whatnot. It's the dude cannot walk through a metal detector. Let's just put it that way, or get an MRI. So then you see Bumpo, who's singing "La Donna Mobile," the nice little Italian song, and he's cooking and singing, and then you hear the revving of the engine. Wasn't Kevin Nash the great Gazzo or something in the WCW? I have no idea. I do not watch wrestling. But yes, they all go out, and John Panay does a great job as Bumpo. He's like, "It's really loud. Is it supposed to be that loud? Oh, it's beautiful." He hasn't slept all week. How do you know? Because I haven't slept all week. And they're like, "So what do you think he does for a living?" "Maybe he's an artist." "Our neighbor's an artist." "That's great, man." He's like, "You got the lowdown on artists, John?" And she's like, "I've known a few." It's just great. The introduction of these characters, even how mundane they are, you still care for them, because somehow you just know that they're going to be entangled in Frank's life. So then we get him moving out, or Frank going out. He kidnaps, or before he does that, he's actually installing metal plating into the car that he just got after he fixed the engine. And this is just some cool shit with the car, man. I'm telling you. Epime said it best. That car was freaking dope. Yes, Kevin Nash was in WCW, and he did the NWO with Hulk Hogan in his prime. Yeah. And so basically everything that Frank Castle does or has is meant for tactical purpose. And I do mean everything. And it's good to see you, Metalong. I believe Nash was referred to as Big Sexy in his WCW days. Roommate in college was a fan. Nice. And so, again, folks, please feel free to smash that like button and share out the stream if you would like. It does help get the channel noticed. I'm at 761 subscribers, so I'm actually getting up there, and I do thank everyone for the support, too. So, he kidnaps Mickey, and Mickey's going out to his car. This is undignified. So then you get the nice lights just flash on. He turns around. He's like, and then he's like, "You're supposed to be dead." But you don't see Castle there. But then you see Mickey hanging upside down, shirtless. He's kind of like praying to himself or muttering into himself. Then you hear Castle somehow off screen, "Let's talk." "Stay away from me, Castle. I got friends, you know." "Let's talk about your friends. Make your own friends, buddy. I ain't telling you nothing. If I talk to you, the Saints will kill me." And he's like, "You don't help me. I'll kill you right now, Mick." And then he just smacks the dude's forehead with his freaking finger. I'm like, and so he's like, "The Saints tell me nothing." Nothing. They pay your bill, or they pay your rent. They pay your bills. You work for him. You must know something. And so then he grabs the blowtorch and he lights it up with the Bunsen burner. He's like, "What's the torch for?" 2,000 degrees, Mick. Enough to turn steel into butter. And he's just going around and he's like, "It won't hurt at first, see? Or it's too hot, you see. The flame sears the nerve endings shut, killing them, and then all you feel is cold. Isn't science fun, Mickey?" And then he just pinches his freaking armpit hair. He's like, "I don't know shit." He's like, "You'll smell burning meat, you'll go into shock, and then it'll hurt. I swear I'm telling the truth." And then he starts sizzling or raw steak and with the blowtorch, and then grabs a popsicle and just starts jabbing Mickey in the back. And Mickey thinks he's getting blowtorch, so he's freaking the hell out. And Bumpo and Dave are outside listening to it. He's like, "Should we call the police? Let's stay out of it. He's a very scary man. He's killing somebody, and we're next." Exactly. And Dave just rushes into his door, and John Benet's, or freaking Bumpo's, he's like, "No women!" And then he runs into his door. And so then you see the torture going on. And he's like, "Okay, I'll tell you anything you want to know." That's a good boy. And so he gives him a little bit of lowdown on the Saints, on Howard and how he and his business with the Toro brothers. And so then Frank just jabs him with the popsicle again. I never laughed so much in my life watching that. Yeah, I know, right, Price? It's freaking hilarious. And so then he lets him down and he's like, or jabs him, and he's like, "For the love of God." And he puts the thing in his mouth. Hold on 1 second, folks. Come on, you dang thingy. Sorry about that, folks. When I said love of God, phlegm just kind of came up and I had to get rid of it. So he's like, "You are not a nice person," when he realizes what was going on, you know? And he tells him, he's like, "Tell me about the Saints, where they go, or what they do, where, when." And he's like, "You're going to help me, Meg, unless you want to be Howard Saint's lackey for the rest of your life. Heading out for an appointment. Thank you." "You're very welcome, rough girl. I'll talk to you later. Thank you for stopping by. Make sure you smack that like button before going out." And so, yeah, Mickey gives the lowdown on the entire family, including Quentin Glass, who we learn and while he's giving these, while he is actually giving the lowdowns on Howard, John, the wife, and he lets him, or he tells him, he's like, "What Howard did to your family, he did for her. And anybody who looks at it wrong, they end up in Tampa Bay." And it's just so freaking great how you see Frank writing down everything he needs to know about the Saints and how their strict habits. And then you see Quentin Glass, he's like, "Who knows what's going on with this guy?" And then you see him smacking around a dude in some alley somewhere, and then he starts kissing the dude. So now you know that Quentin is gay. I love how Frank utilizes his revenge to make John Travolta. Yeah, exactly. And so then the money laundering that Frank gets told by Mickey just before he tells him everything about the Saints, he goes to that building and but before he does, he takes his headstone, the Frank Castle headstone, and he then drops it at the golf course. They're like, "Dad, you're not going to believe this." "Oh, I think I might." And he also scratches out his date of death, basically saying, "I am alive, motherfucker." Now, if Frank, if this wasn't the Punisher, all he would have to do is go to the FBI and say, I would like to report a mass murder. I know exactly who did it. I can identify all the people. They work for Howard Saint. His son was there. Quentin Glass was there. They tried to murder me, but they did murder my family. He could have easily put a humongous dent in the entire prosecution. But that's not exactly what happens. This is the Punisher after all. So after he confronts, or this is before he goes to the money laundering place, he confronts the police. He goes to he's waiting outside as a bunch of reporters are talking to the head of the FBI and whatnot. And then Jimmy Weeks is there, and they see him standing there, and you see Jimmy Weeks drop his cup. You also see that his watch is gone. So that's something that should be, or that is important for later on. And so he's like, it's been 5 months since my family was killed. I don't see one man in jail. Obviously, you're upset. Upset? Is that the word? I used to be upset, or I used to get upset when I had a flat tire. I used to get upset when a plane was delayed. I used to get upset when the Yankees won the series. And then he gives that one small little smile. And then he tells him, he's like, if that's what upset means, then what do I feel now? If you know the word, tell me, because I don't. And then he just walks away from him. Excuse me. And so, wait 1 second, folks. Need to get something to drink. But anyway, got my water now. So I'm set. So then he goes and goes to the building where Mickey told him about to steal the money. And there's these guys that are cleaning the money and whatnot for the Toros and for Howard Saint. And this one guy is spooning stuff out of a pan. You see the pan disappear, splats the stuff all over the guy, and then cracks him with the pan. And one of the other guys who was doing the money laundering, he's actually in the movie Arachnophobia, who played the old doctor that got bit on the toe. And I'm like, oh, small world, because I also did a mystery review on Arachnophobia. So we then see him, he's like, grab the money, wheel it out. So they get up to a higher floor, and he's like, you know whose money this is? You know whose building this is? Howard Saint's. He's gonna fuck your life up. You already fucked my life up. And he's using air things to press against the glass, cut out the glass, pull it out, smash it. And he has a briefcase full of money filled up. And he's like, all right, out the window. What? He cocks the gun, points it at him again, and he's like, out the window. You see two of Saint's henchmen. They're wondering why the hell people are just running out the door. And you then see that, and looking up, seeing that's raining from one of Saint's buildings. They go to the elevator, or just before they get to the elevators, they stop. They're like, good business, murder. Did Saint pay you for each one, or did he get a group rate discount? So then he walks them backward out of the, or further into the back into the lobby, and you have the quick draw, and he sets down the case. He wins the quick draw, double wielding, and blasts them both. And then you start getting the news about the raining cash, about the double homicide inside of the Saint building, and all sorts of stuff is going down. And you see that Dave and Bumpo are looking into Frank Castle. And he's like, he's done 2 tours, Spec Ops, speaks 6 languages, and done 12 missions, Black Ops CTU. What's CTU? Counterterrorism unit. And so they then hear that he's coming back, and they're both looking out the door, and they both slide out the door, and frickin' Bumpo, John Panay, is on top of frickin' Ben Foster, Dave, and frickin' Frank looks back at him. He's like, and then Dave's like, "Hi there," because he's on the ground getting crushed by frickin' John Panay, and he just turns around and goes back into his frickin' room, and so then the Toro brothers visit, we then see how pissed off Howard Saint is at Frank being alive. He's like, I don't know why he's alive, or I don't know how he's alive. Why is he alive? That's a better question. I mean, he's like, he's daring us. No, he misses his family and he wants to die. He's asking for help, so let's help him. And so he's now kind of disheveled, and he's like, the Toros call, they'll be here tomorrow morning. You invited them to this house? They invited themselves, Howard. So then you see him greeting the Toros, and they're like, I've seen it, or I've seen hurricanes, I've seen it rain like cats and dogs, but never in my life have I seen it rain $100 bills. And you then see that basically he's like, we want our money back. And the Toro brothers are basically threatening him. He's like, can you guarantee our money next time? With everything I got, all right. And it's a personal loss to us of $50 million. And you learn that these guys they're kind of pissed off. I mean, they just lost $50 million. So you then see Quentin Glass. He's like, tomorrow or in 24 hours, Castle's memory, a pro from Memphis, the best. And then we get to that night where you hear, or it's showing the outside of the building where Frank and the others live. You hear, come on, Johnny, open up the goddamn door, you fucking little bitch. You're in my feelings now. You're in my feelings. This guy's beating on Joni's door. She's in her apartment with a knife, tears down her eyes, and she's scared out of her mind. And Dave comes out and he's like, dude, it's kind of late. Oh, yeah? Well, what time is it in Hawaii? And you see John Panay, he's like, you should leave right now. Shut your face, you lard ass. That's what they say in the movie, folks, and just quoting the movie. So don't be getting on my case. So Panay goes into his room and he's like, come on, Joni, let me in. I'm going to call the cops. And that gets the guy going after Dave. And he's like, you going to call the cops? He smacks Dave in the nuts and then starts smacking him, bitch slapping him. He's like, calm. Then you hear Frank going, hey, get out. So the guy pulls a butterfly knife on Frank, and he's doing his little drunken talking and stuff. And then Frank just pops him in the nose, puts him up against the wall, pulls the knife out of his hands, skillfully whips the knife around, closing it. He's like, shouldn't play with knives. Pops him on the nose, and then just you hear the commotion from inside of Joni's room. And then after everything goes silent, you see Dave standing outside of his room like, nobody's ever stood up for me before. And then you see Bumpo come out with his frickin' rolling pin as if he's going to smack somebody with it. He's like, come on, champ, let's get some ice on that, because he's a little bit bruised up on the face, Dave is. And he's like, Frank kicked his ass. He's all right. So Frank's coming back up the stairs, and Joan is like, or tells him a little bit about how she has lived in like 13 different cities, and in each one of them she's managed to attract the wrong guy. So she's basically trying to find some sort of sympathy for Frank and whatnot. And she's like, thank you for helping Dave. And he's like, whatever. And she's like, Dave is the one with all the metal and Bumpo. Well, you probably know which one Bumpo is. We heard about your family and we're really sorry. For what? For your family. Or we saw you on TV. Yeah, I don't have one. We're very sorry. For what? For what happened to your family. Did you know them? No, I'm over it. So then he opens the door and she sees the bottle of whiskey in there and he's like, she tells him, don't let your memories kill you. Then she turns back around and we then get the next scene where let's see here. In the next scene, we then see Castle going out again, and he steals Liv's car. But before he does, he sees the earrings. He's doing his little detective bit, and he calls Quentin Glass after she's been in the theater for an hour, and using her phone, and he tells Quentin, he's like, I got certain photographic studies of you and your boyfriend. Meet me at the Wyndham Hotel at 9 o'clock, or else they'll have their own website or whatever, and bring $5,000. So it's a nice little ransom thing. And he parks Liv's car in front of a handicap area with no handicap. So she gets a ticket, and he sees that Quentin has arrived at the Wyndham. So he then watches Quentin leave after a while, and then he brings the vehicle back to where Liv parked it. And then before he did, he put a fire hydrant down, which is pretty cool because that way you know that people aren't going to freaking park there because you can't park in front of a fire hydrant. So then the first step of his plan has been executed. And we then cut to Howard and his family. He's looking he's like, Quentin's late. Do you know where he is? I have no idea. His son is in a towel. And he's like, have you seen your mother? It's Thursday night, Pop. And then a woman comes in behind his son, and she's in a bikini. And he's like, right, movies. And then Mickey's chiming in. Mr. Saint, I know where Quentin is. I saw him pull into the Wyndham about an hour ago. And then you see Mickey or Saint going in, and you hear Quentin laughing, and you also hear him talking with Liv. So there's now a little bit of jealousy there. You see a little bit of suspicion. Mickey has planted the seeds of jealousy in Howard's mind, basically. And so we then get to Harry Heck, which is from the comics, I believe. And they're at the pancake place where Joni works at the tiny little dive. And Harry Heck comes in, sings his little song. And as he's opening up his guitar case, you see Frank put away rub off his fingers from eating the pancakes, and then reach back to where his gun is. But then he sees the guitar and he relaxes. And then the guy sings his song, I Can Hear What You're Thinking. And it goes through, and he then finishes, puts his guitar back in, walks up to Frank. He's like, do I know you? I know you. You're that boy from the newspaper. Came back from the dead. And Harry Heck is played by Mark Colley. And he's giving off freaking Johnny Cash vibes, folks. I'm telling you right now, you're kind of reminded of Johnny Cash. He's like, you like that song? I wrote that for you. And then he walks away. I'm going to sing it at your funeral. And so the Punisher's just like, whatever. So then the Punisher gets stopped at a bridge because a boat is going on under the bridge. And as he's waiting there, you see a bright green car just start speeding up and speeding up and speeding up, speeding up, speeding up. And Frank realizes this, starts gunning the gas, but he gets caught on the side or before the bridge because the bridge is too high up, so he's kind of stuck a little bit. Harry Heck gets out of his truck with a full automatic shotgun that fires 10 rounds. And he just starts unloading into Frank's car, but Frank has the metal plate, so he's protected. And then he starts gunning it and gets away. So then Harry has to get back into his car. He jumps the bridge a little bit and puts up the metal, sees that he's about to crash, so he has to turn, overcompensates, misses a girl, and then he smacks his car into another car and flips his car. And so he gets out, sees that Harry's walking up with a pistol, and he pulls out a switchblade knife. And Harry's like, "You are one dumb son of a bitch. Bring the knife to a gunfight." Lifts up the pistol, and that's when you see Frank just push the button. The blade flies out of the knife and into Harry's neck. Now, if you play this scene very slowly to where the knife goes in, you see the knife is on a string gimbal that goes right into Harry's, or into a prosthetic part of his skin, which then pokes into a little blood pack so he can go like and put a little bit of pressure on that area, and you see the blood just go out. So there is that nice little beat there. And so that now Harry Heck is down, or is dead, and Castle then takes his car. So it's like, oh shit. So then we get to the next scene where hold on. Yep. Then that night, Castle, or you see John taking more of the Toro's money from the boats and whatnot, and he's tightening up. You hear this little noise. John goes to check it out, and then he sees a claymore down there, and it's counting down. You see he turns it around, front towards enemy. He then jumps out of the boat really quick just before it blows up, and then he looks up and he sees Castle there with his Punisher shirt on, common Russian Spetsnaz. Yeah, weapon. Yeah, the claymore. That weapon is a mine with a bunch of ball bearings inside of it. So when it blows out, it's a shrapnel weapon. It's meant to do a lot of heavy damage, but it's also it's a direction weapon as well. So then he sees Castle walking away, basically letting him know, it's like, yeah, I did this to you. What are you going to do about it? And funny thing about that is when Castle's walking away, he's actually on stilts, because the little hill there is actually higher than most people realize. So he had to walk away on stilts. And then you see Howard Saint freaking out. He's like, "Oh, it! Oh!" And then you see the Toros coming up. He's like, "Don't tell the Toros until we have a plan." And the Toros confront him again. And he's like, I'm not covering your fucking losses. There's no guarantees in this business. There's no insurances in this business. You know that. Oh, the knife you meant. Oh, yeah. The knife. Okay. Sorry. Yes, the knife, or the gun knife, actually, is another thing about, or is what you're talking about, basically. Yeah. There are knives that the Spetsnaz used to, or that could fire a single shot bullet, usually a small caliber like a .22. It's meant to be a weapon that can give you a good getaway, or meant for a quick getaway. Anyway, it's a good spy weapon. But also, I do believe that claymores were from Russia originally. I can't remember. I'll have to do some digging. But yeah, so after he gets rid of the Toros, because the Toros, you're like, or we can't do business basically with you anymore. And he's like, and with all due respect, we don't have more guns. It's my duty to inform you. It's your duty to make Castle dead. I don't care what it takes, what it costs. Find the Russian or call the Russian. Now, we then get a scene with Dave and the Punisher, Castle, and Dave's knocking on the door. Castle gets up, cocks his gun, opens up. He's like, "Hi, Mr. Castle. That guy that you kicked out of here is in Jones' apartment right now." And Castle just shuts the door on him, not caring. He's like, then he realizes there's no noise outside, so he opens the door, and there's Dave still again, kind of listening in. And then he's just 1 second, and he then gets into or opens up the door quickly to Jones' room, kind of realizing he got set up. He's like, "We'd like you to have dinner with us." So they have dinner, and I know it's not Thanksgiving, but I'd like people to be thankful or tell us what they're thankful for. Bumpo does it, Dave does it, and then she also does it. "Thank you for," or "I'm thankful to be sober," and whatnot. Kind of a little jibe at Frank, and they all look at Frank, and he's like, "Thanks for dinner." It's like, what the hell? So then Bumpo and Dave go into the kitchen to take away or get dessert ready and whatnot. And there's a nice little moment with Joan and Frank where she's trying to get him to feel. She's trying to, or it's a nice little, you think that Frank is going to kiss her because they do get pretty close, ready for a kiss. And he's like, "I'm not the kind of guy you're looking for." And she's trying to get him to basically tell him that you can make new memories, good ones and whatnot. And he then walks away after telling her, "I'm not what you're looking for." And so there's a little bit of a let your guard down kind of bit with Frank there. And then you see Dave and Bumpo setting up the record for La Donna Immobile, and Joan gets in there and she's setting up stuff, and you see frickin' Dave just start dancing and frolicking around. Freaking hilarious. And you see Bumpo lip syncing the song, trying to get Joan to laugh, which she eventually does. And so you see Frank then start drinking, a knock on his door. He grabs his gun, but then he realizes it's probably them again. He's like, ugh. But so he puts the drinks away and the gun away, and he opens up the door, and it's the Russian, just pops right in and just smacks him. And so he goes for a second punch, tries closing the door, fist goes through the door. This fight is one of the most brutal fights in this movie. And Kevin Nash plays the Russian very well. He gets in. He's like, or Frank smacks him a couple times, and he gets tossed around. And Frank grabs onto the chains that he hung Mickey with, swings back, and kicks off one place to give him a little bit more momentum to kick the Russian. And then he's looking for a knife, and then he grabs the butterfly knife that he got off of the other guy. And he goes to stab the Russian, and the Russian just moves to the side a little bit, taking the knife here, and smiles, and then grabs Frank's wrist, pulls the knife out slowly. It's like, oh, shit, man. The fight between the Russian, I mean, you could tell in some scenes that there are stunts or stunt actors, but there's one scene, I mean, this guy, which I'll get to, basically Frank uses all the hidden arsenal in his place. He gets stabbed by the Russian because the Russian basically takes the knife and forces Frank to stab himself with it. And he then gets into the bathroom, pulls the grenade, pulls the pin, tosses it, flips the switch to close the door. And the Russian has a crowbar, just smacks or bats it right back in. And he's like, or you see Frank like this, and then he sees a grenade. And then she gets into the bathtub, and you hear the boom. And the record goes off, and they're like, what was that? Y'all feel that? And so they knock on the record player to get it going, and it starts back up again. And they're all just carefree, doing their stuff. And the fight continues, and Frank is in the kind of disoriented from the grenade going off. He gets pulled out of the bathtub and hit smacked up against stuff. More of the fight. And then he's getting smacked with the door, or he's getting dragged across the sink. And you see Dave just going like this, looking inside as Frank's getting dragged across the other side of the window. And then after Frank's out of shot or out of sight, you see him turn toward where Frank was just there. And then you see the Russian just smacking the refrigerator door against his head twice, and then he lets him out. And then Frank grabs or beats up against the table with the gun, pulls the gun. Russian grabs his arm with the weapon, or with a humongous weight, smashes the gun barrel. So you see freaking Frank just bring up the revolver, looking at the flat ends, and then he's like, looks up at the Russian. You then see Frank crashing through a wall, his face hitting a banister part of the wall. And it's like, holy shit, he just shook that off and just keeps crawling. And so as the end of the song that Bumpo and the group are listening to ends out, Frank and the Russian are burst through into the kitchen. And it's like, holy shit, man. And they're all freaking out. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. And Frank manages to get the Russian's chokehold off of him, kicks him in the face, grabs the hot grease and splashes it all over the Russian's face. That is also strictly out of the comics. And they did a great job with the prosthetic face, or the prosthetic makeup for the Russian's melting face, because you also see it kind of swell or pulsing too. And it's wickedly burnt. And so then Castle just tackles him out. They go down the stairs, and his neck is basically broke and turned around. And they're looking down at him. They're like, Frank, you okay, Mr. Castle? I'm fine. Looks down, dead Russian. He's not. And just falls back, and they're like, oh my, okay. All right. So they get into his apartment. Dave grabs a bottle of whiskey, and Joan goes for the first aid kit. They're like, you need a hospital. You need to go to the hospital right now. No hospital, no police. And so she's like, okay, I can do her. And he's just slogging down the stuff. And she's like, you look like you know what you're doing, Joan. I don't know much, but I'm good with the needle. Don't ask. This will hurt. She actually sewed the prosthetic into Thomas Jane's skin. That I'm like, oh shit, because you actually get that from the audio commentary, that she actually accidentally sewed the prosthetic into to Castle's actual skin. It's like, oh shit. So when he grabs frickin' Dave's arm, he's like, he looks weak. Is he gonna die? And he grabs him. He's like, looks can be deceiving. You can let go now. So then Howard Saint's men show up with Johnny and Quentin. And they have to move him. They get him into a small little under room, like an elevator under room. And that's when they all get in there. The timing is just atrocious, because they would have heard the machinery working. So Quentin starts asking, he's like, where's Frank Castle? Frank Castle, who lives here? And then he goes to Bumpo. He's like, I asked you a question, fat man. And Dave's like, leave him alone. Okay, then I'll ask you, where's Frank Castle? He's not here. And he's like, I ain't saying shit. He's like, what was that? I said, I'm not saying shit. I don't want you to say shit. I want you to tell me what I need to know. And so he's like, I mean, how old are you? Like 15, 16? You should be in school. No, I dropped out. You're not doing drugs, are you? Not yet. So then he's like, so then he grabs the tweezers, and you automatically know what's about to happen. Frickin' Quentin, he's like, you want to know about Pain Boy? And there's another frickin' mistake, because honestly, they can't show the actual thing happening, where he grabs the pliers and starts yanking on the piercing of Dave's eyebrow. And when he pulls back, he had to let it off because, well, honestly, you can't rip the damn thing out. So you don't see the ring or the piercing ring on the pliers. So he's like, so Dave is now starting to freak out because he just had his piercing ripped out in the movie. And he's like, well, Dave, you going to start telling me what I need to know? He's like, no. And then he starts, okay, let's see how much pain you're willing to endure. He literally rips out all the piercings. He rips out his nose ring. He rips out the ones on his lips. And as they're walking away, Quentin's like, if he would have known something, he would have talked. Guess he really didn't know. He didn't care. He did it for the pleasure. He's a sadist. And John tells one of the guards, when he comes back, kill him. So as they get back out of the underroom, Bumpo lets Frank know that there's a guy out there. So Frank goes for the pistol, but then he sees the paper cutter. You know, one of those paper cutters that they used to cut papers in schools way back in the day. He undoes the pin, grabs it like it's a machete, goes up behind the guy, and as the guy turns around, boom, right here on the freaking head with the paper cutter. And you see the guy going like, and just falls back. And he then gets in, and Dave's like, you tried to make me talk. I didn't give him nothing. And you see that he just looks really in a bad way. His face is fucked up from getting the piercing, the nose piercing, the eyebrow piercing, and his lip piercings ripped out. They did a good makeup job with that. And he's like, you don't owe me. You don't owe me anything. Or you don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why are you, or I brought you nothing but trouble. Why are you prepared to die for me? He's like, because you're one of us. You're family. And so he picks up Dave, and he understands that Dave means this. Frank unfortunately brought this on to them. So he then turns to John. He's like, get into a hospital. And as he's now starting to load up, he's loading up, and Rebecca Romaine's character Joan is still there, and she goes to stop him after the pain gets to him, and she's like, say you kill them all, then what? What makes you any different from them? And he turns to her. They got something to lose. You're going to die out there tonight, aren't you? Is that what you want? Basically, yeah, that is what he wants. He wants to die. Frickin' Frank Castle is on a suicide mission his entire life after his family was killed. I got to go to a second job. I'll catch you later. Take care and be safe. Thank you, Matt Along. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for stopping by. Make sure that you leave a like on your way out. Thank you for the support, brother. And so as she then leaves, and you then see him writing down, I write this as a declaration of intent so that nobody will be confused. And you then get 1, Civis Pacem Parabellum, Latin. The boot camp sergeant made us recite it like prayer. Civis Pacem Parabellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. And he's geared up, and as this part is going, you see him walk by Joan. He stops for a second, and Joan turns away, and then he walks by, and she turns back. She has tears running down her eyes. And then he goes off to enact the final bit of his plans. It's another Thursday night, so he does everything again. He calls Quentin from, or he takes the earrings from Livia's car because he goes there, does the whole fire hydrant thing again, and calls Mick and says, "You're on." And he's like, "What are your?" So Mick then turns around and goes to do what he's supposed to do. Mr. Saint, what am I supposed to do about this car or this ticket? What do you mean? I was detailing Mr. Saint's car and there was this ticket. He's like, well, just take care of it. Where's it from? The Wyndham Hotel? What's that date? September 5th? Last Thursday. Where did you say Quentin was last Thursday? The Wyndham Hotel? But that's impossible. Mrs. Saint was at the movies, wasn't she? He's like, I'll take care of it. Or just take care of it. He's like, okay. And he's like, do you got a house to Quentin's, or do you got a key to Quentin's house? Yeah, I do his laundry. Mickey, get me last month's phone bill. And during this time, so then you see that John Travolta or Howard is very shaken. He's putting two and two together. And the Punisher calls, because at this time he is now the Punisher. I mean, he may not be or call himself the Punisher yet, but he is basically in Punisher mode. So then he calls Quentin Glass and says, the price, or I changed my mind. The price is now $10,000. Meet me at the men's clothing store, or else they'll have their own website. And so Quentin goes to his safe, grabs some money, and gets ready to go. Where then, and while they're doing this, Howard, sorry, I'm freezing, folks. My mind is kind of skipping a little bit, so I'm trying to stay on track. So I'm sorry about that. So Howard is now at Quentin's house, and he now finds one of the earrings on Quentin's bed. And so he puts two and two together that Quentin is screwing his wife. So after Quentin is duped again, he goes back home, and Howard's there, and he's like, hello, Quentin. And the storm, or there's a storm outside, so the thunder blasts, and the mood is pretty much there. I mean, the lighting and all the stuff, the dark of how it's kind of in the dark. And he's like, what are you doing here, Howard? Jim Bowie? He's like, who? Jim Bowie. You know, that guy, or that general from the Alamo, had a knife named after him. And he was a famous poker player. He's like, I didn't know that, Howard. Well, whenever he accused a man of cheating, he would move the furniture like so, or he would throw his knife into the table and move the furniture, and whoever got left the room got the money. And he's like, gee, I didn't know that, Howard. The only problem is you have too much furniture. I'm not following. I'm accusing you. Accuse me of what? Has a switchblade, cheating. And then he's like, I've never taken a cent from you. He throws the knife into the table, and he's like, so where are you guys going to do it next time? The Wyndham? To who? You and the whore. I don't know what you're talking about. So Howard shoulder shoves him, and Quentin, great scene with Travolta and Patton. Exactly, Liquid. And thank you for stopping in. How you doing? And so he's like, oh, you're good. You could have been a stage actor. And Quentin actually thinks that he's coming on to him in some sort of psychosexual way. He's like, what are you doing? You could have been a stage actor. Maybe next time. He's like, you better pick up the knife, Quentin. Because if you don't, I will. I don't need to pick up a knife, Howard. So he picks up the knife, slashes his arm. He's like, what? What? He's like, so he's like, how long have we been friends? And so he then smacks him against the wall. He's like, have you lost your mind? And then he stabs him. He's like, what? He's like, I give everything to you, denied you nothing, but that wasn't enough, was it? My Liv. And she's like, my Liv, Livia, his wife. He's like, what does she tell you? And so he's stabbing him. Now he's thinking that he doesn't know why Howard's killing him. He's like, Howard, you're killing me. Why? Why are you killing me? Why are you killing me? And then he suddenly he dies after being stabbed to death by Howard. And it's like fucking brutal, man. It's just fucking brutal. So then he drives back home, and then Olivia gets home, and he's just tossing all of her shit, breaking it, busting it, and whatnot. She's like, what the hell are you doing? I know about you and Quentin. Quentin, you went to the movies last month or Thursday, 7 o'clock? Yeah. Or 8 o'clock? Yeah. And then you called him from your car. An hour later, must have been a short movie. Howard, there's an explanation. Oh, yeah, I know. You're fucking him. You're fucking my best friend. That would be a little difficult to accomplish, Howard. Oh, so true. So true. So he turns, and you see Quentin wrapped up in a freaking rug. And she's like, Howard, you should really learn to pay your parking tickets. He throws the ticket at her, and she picks it up. She's like, what? You thought Howard, Quentin was gay. So he's like, you would say anything. Smacks her, and then he drags her out to the car. And at this point, Howard is just completely in full rage mode, but he's also completely detached. It's almost like Vampire Diaries, where they just completely turn off their emotions. They're just cold, don't care about anything. She's trying to plead with him, get him to look at him. He's like, do you remember the neighborhood? Little Cuba? And he's looking away from her. He can't look at her. He's like, to think, it was just 3 blocks I saw you for the first time, 3 blocks from here. Now it's just for horror. She'll fit right in. And so then they get over to a bridge overpassing train tracks, and he pulls her out, and he's like, look at that rock. I gave you that when I had nothing. And all I wanted was a little loyalty. And she's like, I've been loyal to you. You're not making any sense. No, makes sense, Miss. He pulls the earring out. He's like, I found that in Quentin's bed tonight. Does that make any sense to you? Huh? And she's like, no. He's like, no. And then he kisses her very passionately, and she thinks, or she's kind of disarmed by it. Me neither. And then he just throws her over onto the tracks off the bridge. And you hear the very famous movie shriek. So that wasn't her. And she smacks, and he's like, and he walks away as a train is coming, and she gets run over by a train. He's like, I need to go to the club. Need a martini. So then we get the second shot of Frank. And hold on one second. Or no, we get him arriving at the Saint and Sinners Club, where he then pulls up money. He's like, 50,000 and an extra 50,000 to whoever kills him. If you accept this money, you're in till it's over. And then he walks away from the Wilhelm scream. No, it's not the Wilhelm scream. It's a female scream, not a male scream. The Wilhelm scream is that "ow" kind of one. I know I kind of butchered that, and sorry for the loud noise, folks. But yeah, it's a famous female scream. They do it a lot in horror or in old horror movies. Or that could have been the origin of it. I'm not quite sure. I'd actually have to look it up. But anyway, so he goes into his office, and his son falls, and he's like, where's Quentin? Well, Quentin's tied up or wrapped up in something. Nice, beautiful pun line there. I called the house. No one's there. Your mother's gone. What? Or he's writing, your mother's gone. He's like, what? She took the train, and then goes right back to writing. It's like, holy shit, this dude is just so fucking detached, you know? And so then we get to Punisher's final prep. And it continues his declaration. Number 2, Frank Castle is dead. He died with his family. Number 3, the law is inadequate. Or in certain extreme situations, the law becomes inadequate. To shame its inadequacies, it's sometimes necessary to act outside the law and pursue natural justice. This is not vengeance. Vengeance is an emotional response. It's not a valid motive. No, not vengeance. Punishment. And as he stands up and you hear that, he has a tactical vest with the skull spray painted on his chest. So he's in Punisher mode. So then he kills a guard outside with a bow and arrow, high tensile, strength or high resistance bow and whatnot. And he's using a bow because it's tactical right now. It's it's a silent kill. It's better than any silencer. And so they have a female Wilhelm. Okay, so I'm guessing that is probably the female Wilhelm then. Thank you, Liquid Blake, for providing that information. I always knew Danny and Sandy from Greece would never make it. Jack of all casuals, good to see you, buddy. And yes, the female Wilhelm spring. So he then starts planting C4 throughout a bunch of different cars, which will come to play later in a beautiful freaking scene. I mean, Marvel has covered the Crow scene or tried to copy the Crow scene a lot. So anyway, he then gets in there, kills another guy who's down in the lobby of the Saints and Sinners Club. And then as he's getting ready to go up, you hear another guy call for more champagne. He's like, coming right up. And before he does that, he wires the exit with C4. And then he sends up a bottle that that you find out is wired with more C4. So if you pull the bottle out and it pulls the string too much, boom, you know? And at this time, you see Howard getting a Cuban cigar lit. And a guy is going downstairs, so Castle slits his throat. And as he goes, you hear the pop of the cork. So they cover that well. This entire sequence also has some small continuity goofs and some technical goofs. So after the bomb goes off and everybody's disoriented, he comes in, he starts shooting. There's one guy, the guy that shoots him a couple times before he pulls out the shotgun to blast that dude. That guy was shot enough to be killed. And while he's shooting people, you see Howard Saint get up and get through the elevator. And then the blonde guy whose face he cut in the beginning of the movie from the assault or the assassination of the Castles, he shoots Castle twice with a shotgun, but Castle has the tactical vest on with extra added padding. And so he then grabs the guy, pushes the shotgun down, and as the guy pulls the trigger and blows the dude's foot off, he's like, ah! And then he grabs him, puts him up against the wall, and the guy still has to fight. I'm sorry, if the dude just got his foot blown off with a shotgun, that pain would be so overwhelming. I mean, the only way that I guess it's plausible, but the only way that you're ever going to override your pain is for strict survival. So I guess it is possible. But me, I'm sorry, that if I would just blown my foot off, I would have been unable to freaking do anything else. So then Castle takes a knife, twists the guy's hand so it's down like this against his side, and then just plunges a humongous knife into the guy's hand, basically effectively stapling his hand to his leg. And there's a technical goof there because you see the big handle of the knife that is like this wide from his hand, from the thing. Sorry. There. That's like this wide. So from here to here, and it's in his hand, and then he lets go, and it's a different knife, or it's a different fake knife altogether. So he then puts the blade up underneath the dude's chin as he's going, oh, and it's like right underneath there, and he lets him slide out. So then he's walking, or so then you see Howard and another guy trying to escape underneath or in the lobby, and he gets just behind the guy, and he sees the C4. He's like, stop! But the guy had already pulled the thing too fast, and so he gets out of the way, and the guy turns around and sees the explosive just as it goes off. It's like, oh shit. So you then see Castle pull out his 1911, cocking it and whatnot, and he hears groaning from the other room. So he goes and sees notices another guy is still walking, and as he's walking and his head's turned like this, he just pulls the trigger on the guy without looking. Badass moment, you know? So then he sees John, Howard Saint's son, in the office. He has a humongous shelf pinning his shoulder and his arm, and he's reaching for a gun trying to get to it, and the Punisher just moves the gun away. And he's like, you look like a strong boy. You must work out. Have you ever tried isometrics? The Sansai personnel mine weighs about 8 pounds. Not much. But he ties it up to a string up above him. Try holding it with an outstretched arm. Hell of a workout. And then he just walks away, takes the vest off and walks away. And he's like, don't leave me like this. Don't leave me like this. Help, please. And you see him walk away, or you see the camera pull out, and it shows just the vest with the Punisher skull. And you then see outside where Howard Saint's trying to limp away, and Frank calls to him. He's like, Howard Saint, twice, and that's when he stops. He's like, you took everything from me. And he's like, you killed my son. And then you hear John scream, no, and then you hear the mine go off. Both of them. So then they do a quick draw, and he shoots Howard he wins and shoots Howard, spinning Howard around, and Howard falls to the ground. And that's when you see the fruits of of Castle's plan. He tosses the pictures showing Quentin Glass being gay. He's like, I made you kill your best friend. Then he tossed him the other earring. I made you kill your wife. And then Howard Saint, while he's dying, is slowly realizing this. He's like, oh, God. And now I've killed you. He then strings him up to a car and puts a stick on the gas and shifts it into drive slow, or into first gear, and going down. And then he pulls out the detonator and starts detonating all the cars. Now there's more continuity goofs where you see Howard Saint still not on fire, but then you see him catching on fire, and then you see he's not on fire again in wider shots. It's just a lot of continuity problems, folks. So you then see the Punisher skull from a top view of all of the parking lot of fire. It's just a humongous fire of Punisher skull. And I'm like, damn, that's a lot of C4. And as he blows up the car that Howard is tied to, you see the front end of the car, the hood, go up and then just smash right onto Howard Saint's burning body. So it's like, yeah, he's dead. That's just like the last brutal stroke, you know? So then he goes home, back into his apartment, which is still pretty fucked up, and he sits down. And he looks at a picture of his wife and child, grabs his gun, cocks it, and puts it under his chin, and closes his eyes. And then he starts seeing his wife, Maria. Now, this was another deleted scene originally, where she is waving goodbye to him as he goes off the tour, which was going to be like a flashback scene. But it turned out to be a perfect scene for this where it's like she's waving to him, basically telling him, you have more to do. You have more to do. You can't be with us yet. And so eventually he pulls the gun away, and he's like, or he then stops. So then it goes to Joan waiting for him outside, and he's like, you're right. Good memories can save your life. And she's like, you can't, or you're not staying, are you? I have work to do. Read your paper every day, you'll understand. Which section? The obituaries. But also before that, he told them, when Dave gets out of the hospital, look into the cupboard. I left something for y'all. And then he leaves, and Dave and them come back from the hospital. His face is all wrapped up because of what happened to him. And so they go into Frank's place, and they're checking the cupboards and whatnot, and she sees the only one that's kind of not broken. So she opens the cupboard. There's a bunch of freaking money, or there's 3 stacks of money for each of them. It's like 10,000 or some odd each. And then they have the nice sweeping shot of the bridge, and you hear the narration. Those who do evil to others will come to know me well. The murderers, the sadists, or the murderers, the rapists, the psychos, the sadists. Frank Castle is dead. Call me the Punisher. And that's where they end the theatrical. But there is, or from what I remember of one of the deleted scenes, Punisher actually goes after his friend Jim Weeks from the FBI, because it's discovered that he's the one that sold out his entire family. He's the one, his friend from the FBI was the one that gave the Saints the file on Frank Castle, because he had a gambling debt, and he gave up his watch that Frank gave him. And he's like, and he confronts him. He's like, what happened to your watch, Jim? And then he told him, you're the one who sold me out. And then he leaves him a gun with 1 bullet in it, a revolver with 1 bullet in it. And Jim blows his head, or ends up blowing his head off, because of all the guilt that of what he did to his best friend. And so that's going to wrap up the review. I'm now going to get into the scoring of The Punisher. And let me just close out that window real quick. So objectively, this movie is about a 7 out of 10. Objectively, folks. Don't frickin' go off on me yet. The reason why is because the small goofs add up. And that one digital shot of Livia on the train, it really is not that good. You could tell she was not really on the track. That she was digitally inserted. And but yes, with all the technical goofs, they do add up. And they can actually, if you have that kind of eagle analytical eye, you will see that, or you'll see the mistakes as they happen. And because I have that analytical eye, you notice that there are a lot of goofs. So objectively, yes, this movie is a 7 out of 10. Subjectively, I love this movie. It's 10 out of 10, warts and all, with the goofs and all. The moviegoer, where I'm not tearing it down or deconstructing it or anything, I base it solely on entertainment alone, it's another 10 out of 10. This movie is entertaining. It has some cheesy humor that keeps you interested, and the story just keeps you engaged. So yes, Punisher 2004 is a great movie, even with all the technical goofs subjectively, but objectively it does fall a little bit. But for the most part, this movie is completely enjoyable. And that's going to be the end of the review. Stay tuned for next week, folks, where I will be reviewing another movie. The hints are Feeding Start and Ugly. It might be a little too obvious for you, but if you know it, don't put it in the chat. DM me if you know it, if you think you know it. DM me on Twitter if you think you know it. Or leave a guess, because I will be putting the hints out on Twitter. Thank you all for showing up. Liquid Blake, Jack of All Casuals, Rough Girl, Fooch Norris, Price is Right review, Metal Long, Memes of Destruction. Thank you all for coming on in. DJ Odyssey, and who else? Epi the Oz, thank you for coming in. All of y'all, thank you for coming in. Also, Mara, if you were lurking, thank you for coming. I really did enjoy this movie. I enjoy doing these mystery reviews for you all. So thank you all for stopping in and supporting my channel. I really do appreciate it. Stay tuned for next week. Stay tuned for this Friday. I'm still looking for a couple more panelists to join the Scorpion King versus Conan versus stream. If you would like to join, please message me on Twitter. I would love to see a couple others. Never seen Punisher, we'll watch for sure. Thank you, Fooch Norris. Definitely give it a watch. It truly is worth it. And but yeah, if you guys want to join that stream, just let me know. It's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday night. So just let me know, and I'll pencil you in. Anyway, folks, that is going to be the review. You all know the drill. If you're catching this on the replay, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of Punisher 2004? Did you like it? Did you not? Did you see the extended edition? All that stuff, folks. Anyway, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. Thank you for another mystery review.